Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I want to talk about Ben Riggs' book, Slaying the Dragon. I want to talk about Dave Thaumavore's summary of Ben Riggs' Slaying the Dragon book, and I want to present to you what I believe is new evidence that Dungeons and Dragons was never a game, is not a game now, and never will be a game. That Dungeons and Dragons is not a game. I believe this strongly, and I believe and here's what's changed. I believe that if you looked at the books, and if you looked at the books, there was just a ton of, and if you looked at the community of Dungeons and Dragons, and if you looked at the design of Dungeons and Dragons, those three things would give you strong evidence that this is not a game. Never was a game, never will be a game, is not a game now. Now, I'm saying that the history of TSR itself presents evidence, in my humble opinion, that Dungeons and Dragons is not a game. So let's dig into this. So first of all, let's talk about Ben Riggs. So Ben Riggs is a historian, and he wrote this historical book that presented the history of TSR. And today I want to talk about just the history of TSR from 1974 to 1986, okay? And covered extensively by Ben Riggs' Slaying the Dragon book. So Ben Riggs in 2023 comes out with this book, Slaying the Dragon book, and I don't think it meant a lot because not a lot of people read it, right? And actually, I'll say it right now, I've written 2 novels, right? And this channel that you're watching right now has far broader reach and has had far more impact than the 2 books that I wrote. And here's the kicker. So first of all, check out the link below. You will find Dave Thaumavore's summary of Slaying the Dragon. And I think his summary is extremely important. And the reason why is, I think Ben Riggs' book is 300 pages of chaff, right? And it's hard to find the wheat, right? But Dave Thaumavore, who is masterful at summarizing things, his entire channel there's like 100 tabletop role-playing games that he has gone and visually summarized the rules, the lore, the marketing, the zeitgeist of each one of those tabletop role-playing games, and he's become a master at reading a book, boiling it down, and saying, here's all the golden nuggets from it. And so that's what we're looking. So you got to watch Dave Thaumavore's breakdown of the 54 sins of TSR, right? Now, first of all, let's talk about that, right? So where's the evidence where's the evidence in TSR's history that Dungeons and Dragons was never a game, is not a game now, never will be a game? Right, here we go. So first of all, you have this issue of the 54 sins of TSR. Sins? Like, what are you talking about? That's a religious term, right? But Dave Thaumavore, a genius, who's wrote an ICRPG source book. He's just a brilliant creator. He read Ben Riggs' book, and he's like, these are TSR's sins. Very interesting. It's also interesting when you consider that D&D has canon, right? Do you see anybody like doing videos about the sins of Monopoly? The company who owns Monopoly? No, you don't. And the reason why is it's not, Monopoly is just a game, right? Like, people don't let's talk about the atonement of Monopoly. Or let's talk about the justification of Monopoly, the sanctification of Monopoly, the sins of Monopoly. You don't, because it's just the game, right? Whereas Dungeons and Dragons, in my humble opinion, Gary built it as an identity engine. He built it as an achievement engine. He built it as a human improvement engine. It doesn't function like a game. There's no so when a dungeon master invites a player to a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, okay, so usually when I play Monopoly, it lasts about 2 or 3 hours. How long is this campaign? No ending? So you're inviting me to come to your house once a week forever? Yeah, that's right. It doesn't seem like a game. Okay, now I've come, and what do I have to do to win? There's no winning. No winning and no losing. Are you sure this is a game? No, it's not. It never was. Right? But let me present to you the evidence in TSR's history, right, that D&D is not, Dungeons and Dragons is never a game, right? You could see it in TSR's history. So let's do what happened between 1974 and 1986. Death, betrayal, shipwreck, salvage, right? That's the history of TSR, right? Death. So 3 men start up D&D. Gary births D&D, and there's 2 midwives, right? The midwives are Don Kay and Brian Bloom, okay? And so Don Kay dies. There's death at the beginning of the story, right? Then in around 1981, in 1981, Brian Bloom betrays Gary Gygax. In 1983, Gary Gygax goes to Hollywood, gets a very bad habit from Hollywood, and loses complete control of himself and betrays everyone, right? Basically, the reason that Gary Gygax had to leave Dungeons and Dragons in 1986 is he went to Hollywood to get a movie deal for D&D. What he accomplished was getting a Saturday morning cartoon for D&D, but when he was there, he got a very bad habit, which made him lose complete control of himself, and everyone who knew him knew, okay, you don't even control yourself. There's no way you can control D&D. So, Gary, now that you're out of control, pick somebody who can control Dungeons and Dragons. And he handpicked Lorraine Williams, right, to carry his epic forward, right? So death, betrayal, and in the 80s, TSR resurrected, dredged out of the ocean a shipwreck. Literally pulled a ship out of the, I think it was a lake, right? And just an old ship. It's right there. It's in the book. It's in the summary, right? Death, betrayal, shipwreck, salvage. This is Beowulf. This is Shakespeare. This isn't accounting, right? And the reason why is this was always an adventure. Gary set this off as an epic quest from the beginning, right? And TSR's history doesn't read like any corporation's history because it really wasn't a corporation. It was a shell that Gary used to do what he determined to do in 1974, which was to build an identity engine, build an achievement engine, and sneak the biggest self-help book, air quotes, that had ever been written, right? Like, and so it's and to make it so that 50 years later, there's still I think that's where I'm landing, right? Is every Dungeons and Dragons canon hardback is a self-help book that people want to read that actually helps them improve themselves, right? Because no one recognizes it as a self-help book, right? And it's really, it's an identity engine, an achievement engine, and a human improvement engine. And so, and so that's where we land, right? Is understanding that if you look at the history of TSR, it doesn't look like the history of a corporation because TSR wasn't a corporation. It was a shell that Gary used to hide what he really accomplished, in my humble opinion. Every single word you just heard is my humble opinion. What's important is when I hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider liking, subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.